I want to thank everybody for coming here today and taking an interest in this important issue to us and my fellow, I think it's like you're not fellows, but panel experts. I'm going to talk something a little bit different. I'm going to talk first about my personal experience with the murdered and missing women. Then I'm going to go into, it's more like a solution oriented too as well. I'm going to talk about where I work. I'm very thankful too as well. We have the staff at Minwaashin Lodge here today. So when I look over here, I'm looking at the staff to see what their response is. Again, my name is Verna McGregor, and I'm from Kitagan, Zibi, and Nishnabek. We're an Algonquin community 120 kilometers north of here. This is our traditional lands. When we talked about with Kahande and Cherry, the history here too as well, I did a talk about 6 years ago now when the girls first went missing, and we want to talk about colonization. I said my direct relative, which was Bonnie Kishkanakwut, they would come here, and this would be on their way to their hunting grounds, their winter hunting grounds, their summer hunting grounds. We were nomadic, and we would move to different hunting grounds. And the reason for that is that this understanding that you don't over-harvest the resources and this connection to the land and the role that women played also too very important, in addition to the male role and this understanding that male-female balance each other. So what happened with my ancestor is that when they were camping from where the museum is, she wandered off up by here where the National Gallery is today to pick medicines, and she never returned. So they sent a party out to look for her, and they found her on a stump, and she had bled out. And again, too, as well, it was contact with the redcoats in the building of the Rideau Canal. So is a history of violence in this area new? No, it's not. So, and as a result of that too, a lot of our people stopped coming by here because of the population, the onslaught of the population. So anyway, my background hasn't been in violence. My background has been in economic development. I worked at a national level. I worked in banking, blah, blah, blah. But in 2005, I went to work for a small organization here in Ottawa. It was called the National Aboriginal Circle Against Family Violence, and its mandate was to the shelters and transition houses across Canada. But during that time there too, it's a small organization. We were only like a staff of 2, big mandate, big demands, people burn out. Anyway, but that's another story. But what happened is there too, while I was working, we would get faxes and emails from different nations across Canada asking for requests in how to find their missing loved ones. And I remember one time just crying in the office, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, they're so young. What would happen if that was my daughter? So anyway, all that came around, and in 2008, I finally left the National Aboriginal Circle, and I was taking time off. I was going to take the summer off, and I was still looking for work anyway, but I was back in my community in Kitagan, Zibi. And I remember in July saying, oh, good, like no more violence, all this violence. It's nice to take a break. And my son was still in high school. So he started the second day, it was September 6th. He came home. It was September 8th. Anyway, and he said, Mom, he goes, the police were at the school. They're looking for Maisie and Shannon. And again, too, as well, when I get all these faxes, a lot of them were from the West or the different parts. And I said, not in my backyard. Like, you never think it would. And then it was like a shock, like you stop and say, oh my God, it could be here too. And that started the whole rigmarole of going through, first of all, the disbelief, the shock. We always thought there was this thing, oh, they just ran away. Maybe they just were being naughty, or they They just disappeared. But then weeks passed, months passed, and here we are in 2015, and we still haven't found them. My part too as well with the logistics of this too with the national inquiry was the stereotype of the girls too. Not just calling them runaways was one of the nicer names. The other part too as well, the logistics, is in Maniwaki. Maisie was on from Kitagan-Zibi. Shannon, her father was from Kitagan-Zibi, but they lived in the town of Maniwaki. So there was a division of police. The on-reserve police said, we'll look after Maisie, and the SQ, Sûreté du Québec, would look after Shannon's case. But there was no interaction in the jurisdiction. There was a jurisdiction issue here because of the two girls. But the other part where I noticed too as well, it was like the policy and procedures of this jurisdiction, the different police jurisdictions. And again, because of the stereotyping, even when they did the search of the house, the other thing that was suspicious is they didn't take any of their belongings. What teenage girls don't leave the house without their cell phone today, let alone their makeup? But that was left behind. But even then, the procedure of even doing an investigation, even small things like, an example is, it was only after a month that they came to get their computers. And again, to look in today, how many people, they may have met somebody online, we don't know. So, and then what happened from a community perspective, we're talking about trauma too. It really traumatized our community because everybody started to get suspicious of everybody because again, we didn't know. So anyway, here we are. So one of the recommendations also too as well, I also participated in this Amnesty International had a roundtable with the different police forces. And again too, one of the other part going back with the girls, no search was done. They went missing September 8th, and I remember it was December 3rd that a search was organized, but it was through our community members. And they start to, by that time there was about a foot of snow on the ground and 3 months have passed. But at that same time, you want to see the comparison here, that time too, that same time, Brandon Crisp, the young boy in Ontario who went missing. I remember looking at the TV and I say, how come we don't even have that? They had the helicopters in the air, they had 50 police searching the ground, they had all this mobilization, and he was gone for a day, and then they eventually, unfortunately, found him. So again, too, as well, that's where, again, is the attention to detail. So that's where, when you talk about an inquiry, there are so many questions that need to be filled. What I do today too as well is I work at Minwaashin Lodge, where it's an Aboriginal Women's Support Center here in Ottawa. Anybody, there's my co-workers, no, they'll correct me if I miss them, no. And Minwaashin Lodge is an Aboriginal Women's Support Center. It was started 21 years ago, started in a little small house and has grown. But the mandate, it has a violence against women mandate. And it provides more of a holistic service to women. And so it evolved through the years into a 21-bed shelter, which is always full. Right, ladies? The other part at the shelter, they have an outreach with the women, again, too, as well, for the provision of services, accessing programming. With the shelter, we also have the Storm, which is a sex trade outreach mobile. And again, too, as well, lessening the harm reduction too, as well, services. We also have a new position, which is the housing transition person to find shelter. So that's at a separate location here in Ottawa. It's very, we keep it confidential. Then we have a second location, which is Minwaashin Lodge. We're located at 1155 Lola. And in there, I always think too as well, people come and the women do their circle as Kahande's presentation. Everything we always think in a circle. So women go through the shelter and crisis, but it's not that too as well. Women come to Minwaashin Lodge in seeking not just services, but also as a place to connect. It's not necessarily all as a result of violence that they come to Minwaashin Lodge. So anyway, at Minwaashin Lodge, we also have different programming, and some of the programming that we have is like we have a transition worker who helps the women if we have to go to court, helps them also with the housing worker, find housing, work with Ontario Works, which is social services. We have the Sacred Child program, which again too as well, they connect with the Children's Aid Society. We also have a youth programming, and Amber too as well, our singer this morning too, also works with me as a youth assistant. We also have an elders program where we have Grandma Irene Lindsay. She comes in, her mandate is to help also the residential school survivors, but also provides counseling with a lot of the women coming in. We also have the culture program, and again too as well as that holistic view, reconnection back, a lot of urban natives or how the enfranchised have never had an opportunity to connect back to the culture. So it's a way of coming back. So then the other part is we have a counseling sector, which includes we have an addictions referral, a sexual abuse counselor, we have a crisis worker, and an art therapist who works with the children. How am I doing on time? No, I was kidding. I'm time. And my section is the employment and training. And I've been there now for going on 4 years. And I work with 3 ladies. And a lot of times women come into, we have an employment readiness program where the women come in, it's a sessions in the afternoon, they get their resume, they work on self-esteem, and it's about 10 sessions. Then I deliver the APATSWIN program, which is geared to the unemployed, underemployed, and helping women getting like work placements, but also if they want to go back to school. And we have also too as well, and I work with my coworker, Tina Vincent, in the Courage to Soar program, which has also been very successful with Willis College. We've graduated over 100 people, 100 women who have obtained their administrative assistant diploma program. And for us, I think too as well, we see ourselves as we're frontline workers. And I think why I stayed there so long is also too as well, I see the transformation in the women. An example is, like I had a lady the other day, and another one, like an example, who got out of the prison system. And she said, I thought my only option was going back to a life of crime until I came here. And I've gotten first of all, she went to university, but then she's missing a few credits now. She's going back to get her high school diploma, because we tried like in a number of places to find employment for her, but the minute that they say that you have a record, the door slams. So I said, you might as well become an academic since you've already, and write about the issue. I had another older lady came in, and she finished her diploma program and then went to work up north. But when she first came in, I told her, well, I see you. No, she goes, well, I think I should go to university. I said, I see you going to university. She goes, but Verna, do you know how old I am? I said, you're 64. She goes, yeah. I said, but I still want you to do your PhD. And so she goes, but that's when she said, do you know how old I am? And I said, I'm going to put a picture up of one of our ladies back home. I said, Dorothy. I said, she's still in school. She's getting her PhD, and she's in her 80s. If Dorothy can do it, you can do it. And then she says, well, Verna, you're talking to a woman who once slept in a ditch. I said, well, then you can write your PhD on how you got out of the ditch. So I think it's providing local services also too as well that are so important. And when we think it, we have the stereotype of, and we see it too firsthand, that Native women are worthless. And when you see the transition to that, no, we're pretty darn good. And I think it's learning to as well, it's teaching resilient skills. So that's why I think like services like Minwaashin Lodge, and I think there needs to be more Minwaashin Lodges across the country. It's the empowerment, not just also to the empowerment of everybody, because as our elders once said, we're all on a healing journey, Native or non-Native. So I say, miigwech.
Thank you, Verna. Thank you, Verna.